All right. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to America's Mom. It's Friday. Thankfully, I know everybody's got big plans for the weekend. I, for one, am probably going to have like a big block party celebration, waving goodbye to one of the notorious hood rats of the state of Texas. How this ever happened, I don't know. I do not know. But thankfully, people are smarter than I give them credit for. Representative Jasmine Crockett will not be returning back to Congress. And I don't think there's anybody that's sad about that. I don't think anybody's sad about it. I I don't think anybody's sad about it. I've seen a couple of crazy videos that make me think, people are definitely deranged. But I think it has to do more with community. The idea that someone who was black was representing them, although she was not doing a good job representing them. Okay. It was not good. It was not a good look for anybody. It was not a good look for her. Remember, Jasmine Crockett was a highly educated woman. She spoke completely different. She acted completely different. She dressed completely different until she became a member of Congress. And then all of a sudden, she decided she needed to start acting like she was in a rapper video. It was the craziest thing ever. We debuted her album here, her number one hit here on America's Mom, and it was embarrassing. Embarrassing. This was a hyper educated woman from a really great family who decided to pretend like she was a hood rat and had just literally gotten off the streets of Compton. It was insane to behold, and just such a disregard for people in the Black community who are actually trying to level up, who are trying to get out of the poverty mentality. That was not going to happen with Jasmine Crockett at the helm. So goodbye. Goodbye, girl. Goodbye. I don't think anybody's sad about that. Bye bye. Jasmine's out. Another one who's out right now is Dan Crenshaw. And I can tell you the majority of Texas is cheering, celebrating wildly. I'm going to guess that the majority of votes he even did get are those that he gave insider trading tips to, or frankly, they don't exist. Okay. They probably don't exist. Those probably are not even real. I don't know, but all I can tell you is that Texas is so overjoyed to see Dan Crenshaw go that it's don't let the door hit you on your way out. It does not matter. He can't even use the virtue of service anymore because he so undermined his own constituency. He obviously cried and threw baby fits when the populace said, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't be getting insider trading tips. Maybe you shouldn't be able to invest while you're in office on things you know are going to explode because they've been given government contracts, stuff like that." We saw Dan Crenshaw have many meltdowns, many breakdowns because the people were calling him to a higher standard that he did not want to follow. A lot of people, when they get into Congress, we've seen this over and over and over. It's very rare that we don't see it, actually. We see it over and over and over that they're really probably good for about 2 years. They're really only good for about 2, maybe 4 years. Every now and then you'll have, a Steve King, a Congressman Steve King, who, by the way, should run again because everything he was saying before the left and the globalists, the uniparty, kicked him out of Congress has come to pass. It is a popular message now. I would love to see Congressman Steve King from Ohio run again. I think he would do incredible, and I think he should run again. But anyway, ones like him are very rare, and they usually get attacked and removed while they're in Congress. Look what's happening with Thomas Massey. As much as you love President Trump, sometimes you're just like, what's going on? Why is it wrong to have some adversarial think? Why is it wrong to have people that question what's going on when it's very obvious that they're not just questioning to be rebel rousers, they're questioning because unintended consequences. Hello, here we are in Iran. I'm not going to be talking about Iran today. I'm going to be bringing a special guest in next week who's going to really hammer on this for us and break it down from international affairs. I want to have a more in-depth conversation about Iran because it's not something I don't think we should clickbait that and cover it in 2 seconds and then move on. I think it deserves more than that because it's literally going to turn the world on its head. I do think Tucker Carlson's most recent monologue that he did on the religious war of Iran is worth everybody listening to. I think it's been really funny. It is kind of funny. Like if we were to do a breakdown, I'm going to do a breakdown actually next week. I started it, but I couldn't finish it in time. A breakdown on all the podcasters and kind of their image that should be assigned to them. And one of the images for Tucker Carlson is like he's the global gossip girl. It was really funny actually, and I kind of thought that's kind of true, except for that, if you're a good gossip girl, there's usually a lot of truth within that gossip because that's why people keep coming back to you. It's like, Joan Rivers. We all listened to her because she was the gossip queen and it was full of truth. She would not have maintained that role had she been lying to people. She knew what was up. She's the one who told us about Michelle. She's the one who said, "Oh, give me a break. We already have a gay president. We already have a tranny in the office." That was Joan Rivers, and she was dead a few months later from a routine facial procedure. But I don't know. Anyway, but this particular monologue that Tucker Carlson just did on Iran was absolutely amazing, and I really want everybody to see it. I want everybody to listen to it. There's nothing that you have to see, but turn on the audio and listen, okay? Because it's really, really going to be great. So, hey, I want everybody to do me a quick favor and just drop a comment for me. If you're watching from Facebook right now, just drop a comment. I want to make sure everything's working right. I can't tell. I know I see a few of you on, and we are trying to get back to consistency again. We are. I love this. I love being able to come and talk and share and bring great people on. I love all of that. I just it is kind of challenging because we are a one man show around here. And so, in fact, our guest right now, I just want to make sure she's good to go. She's going to be joining us in just a few minutes here. This is going to be a great, great conversation. Some things that you guys do not know about. You do not know about, you have not heard about because it's not mainstream. Um, 1 second. Yay. There you go. Wonderful. Okay, she's going to be joining us shortly. That's Susan Liebel. She is the state director for the Susan B. Anthony organization. And the stories we're talking about today are crazy. You would not believe them. You would not believe what has been going on with women across this country due to the abortion bill. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about a Tina Peters update today, too. I'm going to give that to you guys. And poison. How are we still poisoning our children when we've been given so much information by Robert F. Kennedy and by Maha movement? Why do I still, every time I look around, I'm at sports events all the time. Why do I still see parents giving their children Gatorade? I can't take it. I literally can't take it. I can't handle it. I can't take it anymore. I have to put this out there. I have to tell you the truth. You got to stop poisoning your kids, okay? I don't want people getting mad at me. I don't want you to feel bad and get mad at me because I'm telling you a truth here. I just want you to stop doing it because once you learn, you can't go back. You can't sit there and watch your kid drink red dye number 5 anymore. You just can't. Why does Gatorade do this? Why do they poison our athletes and our children? I have no idea. They could do better. Everybody does better over in Europe. They don't do this stuff. They don't give this kind of stuff to people. You can't buy this in the stores. You can't buy red dye number 5 in the stores. Um, oh, should be fine. Okay. So we're going to talk about that just a few minutes. Just want to give a little mom tip, but I want to share something with you guys that I was really, really encouraged about because I love babies. I love children. I love taking my kids with me. I just got to take my daughter with me to Mar-a-Lago and my grandson. It was incredible. Couple of days of just being able to bring them into my world a little bit more and meet the people that are really making a difference, really are using their influence rightly and just let them see a part of what my life is like when I'm not at home and doing my mom thing and all that. And I loved it. And I love that not only do people on do I don't think it's just on the right, by the way. I think it's happening everywhere. And I think this picture really, really says a lot because uh, you are seeing this little girl stole the show. Okay. She's there with her mother. She steals the show at this event. And this is a big Hollywood event. And I think that we're seeing that people are starting to say, you know what, kids are good. Kids are good. We love kids. We want kids. We want to include kids, and I just wanna make sure I get her name right because I just thought it was so, so, so awesome. Teyana Taylor. Teyana Taylor brings her daughter to the award show last week. First of all, I just wanna say Teyana Taylor is absolutely stunning. I believe this is a real woman. Someone texted me and said, "That's a dude." I'm like, you know what? Be quiet. I want my moment right here because I think this woman is absolutely gorgeous. And the best part of it all was her having her little girl with her. It was so sweet. Everybody was all about it, seeing, innocents, little children, and please don't come at me with any of the Pizzagate stuff and all that. I know all about that stuff. I was the one telling you guys all about it in 2017, so please don't come at me with that. What I loved was the innocence of all of this. I love seeing kids, for a long time there, especially during COVID from, like, 2020 to 2023, we didn't see kids anywhere. Kids were not anywhere. My kids were with me everywhere, but I never saw any kids. Like, it was crazy. We didn't see children anywhere. We didn't have parents. People were talking about not having kids. I can't tell you how many weddings I did where people were saying they were not going to be having children. But I love, love, love this. Tayana was definitely the icon of the evening, there's no doubt, and her little girl being with her. Her little girl's name is Rue, which is absolutely adorable. She's a very well-spoken little girl. I watched their interview, it was so cute. I loved it. She single-handedly made motherhood a trend again the other night. I loved it. I'm here for stuff like this. I wanna celebrate when we see motherhood being celebrated and children being celebrated in the right way. I mean, even her outfit was adorable and conservative, so cute, totally age appropriate for that little girl. And Tayana looked absolutely stunning. If you didn't get a chance to see that dress, you need to check it out. It was amazing. And I loved everything about it. I am all about that stuff in my real life, you guys. Like, I love fashion. I love beauty. I love all the things that women are supposed to, that we love. We love creating and we love producing and we love babies. So thank you for that. I thought that was awesome. I love, love, love it. I want to remind everybody to, if you haven't had a chance, go check out my business site, All About Looks Image. One of the passions I have in life, of course, is beauty and image. I have worked in the image industry for almost 20 years. People don't know this about me. This was a part of my life while I was raising kids. I've always worked on the side, grown little small businesses, helped other people develop businesses, and I love it. I think that one of the best things we can do to keep ourselves off of this crazy outrage circus that keeps throwing itself at us, almost forcing us to join the circus, is to be super productive, to find things that we love, tune out the noise, and zero in on how we can really create and produce. And this is one of the genres that I absolutely love, the bridal industry, special occasion, big events, all of that. I am your conservative choice. My team is absolutely amazing. Please go check them out today. All About Looks Image. You can find us on all social media platforms and on our on Facebook, of course. Primarily big conservative events we will always be at, and we will be taking care of you. And then we also operate in Florida, Texas, and Colorado on a regular basis. So go check it out, All About Looks Image. And I think you're going to love what we do and how we take care of you. So, having said that, I want to jump into, before our guest comes on today, I want to jump in. Let me make sure that my guest is doing good because she's going to be amazing. Good. Let me just make sure. She should be joining us in just a couple minutes, and I wanna make sure we are good to go. I clearly I came down with something, I don't know what's going on. I almost canceled today, but then I was like, "Nah, nah, we're gonna keep going because, nobody has to see me. Nobody has to worry about me coughing on them and spreading germs." Terrain theory, Dr. Trubbing, I can hear you in my head right now, terrain theory. However, something in our terrain is making us all get the same thing, so I don't know what's going on here. I want to share a couple little quick health tips before we jump in to the Tina Peters update. Or do you guys want me to give you the Tina Peters update right now? 'Cause, I cannot see any of the comments. Oh, there we go. How about I? Whoops, sorry. All right, there we go. If you are here with me this morning, just say hey. Drop a hey for me, guys. Drop a comment in the comment section for me. I don't know exactly what's going on, so I want to make sure that we are good to go, especially before our special guest joins us today. You know that one of the reasons that we've had America's Mom is because we want to elevate local situations. So, in addition to our Tina Peters update, our poison moment we're going to share with you guys today, and our great interview happening with Sue Liebel today is I'm going to be talking about a local issue out of Carbondale, Colorado. It's not local though, it's actually happening on a national scale. People think that just because President Trump has put out executive orders saying you're not allowed to sexualize and groom children, that all of a sudden these and I say educator very loosely, these public school systems with these, hyper educated social elitists said, "Oh, okay, I'll just get back to teaching math and writing and and critical thinking and science." Okay. That is not what is happening. So I'm going to walk you through a crazy story unfolding on my social media right now on Facebook. You are going to have to go check this out. If you have not already looked at it, if you have not already seen it, I have not posted anything on X about it. I want to talk a little bit about the restraining orders against me right now, also from the transgender community or transgender people, transgender man to woman. I don't know. I don't know. It's so much confusion. I'm going to give you a little update on that, on what's going on with that today. We're going to have a really, really great conversation today. Also, I want to reach out to you guys. I need some help from you. You guys, before we were deplatformed, you were the very best at bringing me amazing stories that were happening in your areas. And that's what we were always about, was elevating people to prominence by being able to give them a platform to share their story and talk about what was going on. I found how necessary that was in 2019 when we were running Lauren Boebert's campaign and realizing that we were getting the shaft everywhere. Could not get great media coverage on great local candidates, on this national race. And then, of course, when we were dealing with COVID, when we were dealing with comprehensive sex education, which we still are all throughout the country, we could not get media to pick it up. So that is why we started our own. We were like, we're not ever going to get these MSM people to care about our kids the way that we do. And of course, you know the rest. We were deplatformed multiple times. The shadow banning, the deplatforming on every single platform. X, it was Twitter then, YouTube so many times I can't even, I've lost count. I'm surprised they keep letting me come back. They didn't for like a year and a half, but finally I get to have it back. It's just ridiculous. And it's all because we don't obey the algorithm. We don't obey the algorithm at all. So I think that, well, let's see here. Is our friend here? Oh, she is here. Good, good, good. I think it is really important to remember that, you guys, we are here to make sure that we put out the stories that matter in your local community. We could talk about national, and we do. We can talk about international, and sometimes they're in the same position where they desperately need attention. They need the world to know what's happening to them, and we bring those stories to you. Carlin Georgescu, of course, we brought that story to you. What was happening in Romania? What was happening with the EU? You know, we went there. We broke the only story that has ever happened with the whistleblower out of Ukraine, the general prosecutor who alerted the world to what was actually going on with Zelensky, put his life on the line, and is not safe today, by the way, while Zelensky is threatening to take out Viktor Orban. I mean, it's so insane what's happening over there that you have to just wonder how in the world President Trump deals with all this stuff. You really do. Like, the crazy train is alive and well. Now, what matters the most for us is local. What is happening in our backyards? And this issue that we're bringing up today that we're going to be discussing is it is so important for you to be aware, because when the Supreme Court finally ruled that abortion was not a right that the federal government had to enforce and protect across the country, was a very pivotal time in our country. I remember sitting there thinking, for the first time, I thought, you know what? We may stand a chance. We may actually be able to get our country back if we are not nationally sanctioning the murder of innocent babies. The choice was going to be returned back to the states, for the states to decide whether or not they would sanction the murder of innocent babies. Okay. And those states that have done that, look at Colorado, case in point, that state is imploding right now. It's losing all of their federal funding. The people are so amped up and doing amazing things right now to expose the really demonic behavior of the worst leftist governor in the country, Jared Polis. And I say that knowing that we're gonna be giving a Tina Peters update, so I probably have to be careful because these people have massive egos too. But Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Maine, California, all these places where abortion on demand, Virginia, where abortion is on demand up until the day of birth, you're watching these states crumble from within. So when the Supreme Court makes this decision and says, "Hey, we're returning it back to the states," that is the appropriate thing to do. Um, then for me and for many of the attorneys who've been working in this space of wanting to preserve life, get rid of abortion, and get it out of the federal government's hands, we all were cheering. Okay. So from there, we have this really interesting situation happening across the country where, again, people will say, okay, well, we don't do abortion throughout the country anymore. It's no longer happening, so we don't need to worry about it anymore. Wrong. Wrong. On February 17th, 21 states and 60 pro-life congressmen joined Louisiana, and they demanded that the Food and Drug Administration require that abortionists have to see a client in person before dispensing what has become the most notorious abortion tool, the abortion kill pill. So just when we thought, okay, great, we're not having abortions like that, like we were doing before in this country, something far more nefarious has crept in. Joining me today is going to be Sue Liebel. She is the State Affairs Director for Susan B. Anthony Pro Life America. This woman is a fighter. She's worked for over 30 years in policy development, lobbying. And let me tell you, that is so exhausting. It's such an exhausting thing to be doing every single day. You have to be passionate about life to be doing this kind of stuff. She has worked on political strategies for over a decade. She was the vice president of the Indiana Right to Life. And today, as states are trying to figure out how to work within these new abortion policies following the Roe versus Wade decision, she is there. She is helping. She's a devout Christian, works with pro life lawmakers, and is in the states to advance these pro life laws. And thankfully for me, I'm living in a state where it is extremely pro life, thankfully. And people like Sue are making a massive, massive difference for us. I want to thank you so much, Sue Liebel. Thank you for joining me on America's Mom. What you're talking about is so incredibly important.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity and your intro was spot on. After the Dobbs decision, everybody thought, well, I'll just go back to the states, and different states are doing different things. You mentioned California and New York. It's abortion, Colorado, abortion up till birth on demand. But in like your state and other red states, let's say, they've limited abortion to a great degree, with like zero abortion or heartbeat laws or something like that. Unfortunately, the bad actors from other states are mailing those pills right over the border into those red states that have limited abortion. So now the abortion drug is coming in, against the law in those states by mail. And abortion is actually up since Roe versus Wade was overturned. And this is a real problem that's happening. It's kind of state versus state now, and they're not helping each other out in any way.
I want to talk about real life experiences of this abortion pill. Not everybody knows what this is. Can you first explain exactly what it is and
Okay.
how it works? And then I want to talk about the real life story, the consequences. Women are thinking they can just take a pill and erase this baby. Doesn't exist. And no, you just pee it out. That is not what goes on here. Can you explain how the abortion pill actually works?
Yes, I'm happy to, because I don't think most people know this. I just want to warn everybody this is kind of, gross, but and unthinkable, really. But it's a series of two drugs. The first drug, mifepristone, was approved by the FDA in the year 2000. And when a woman gets pregnant, her body floods with a natural hormone called progesterone. It's something that's inside of us. It's just a hormone, and it creates, for that very beginning of the baby, the food and the yummy womb for the baby to get nutrients and to grow. So what that first drug does is it blocks the uptake of progesterone, so that in effect starves the baby to death. And then the second drug, a day or two later, creates contractions so that the woman will then expel the baby. And so it's a two-drug regimen. Unfortunately, while it seems so easy to take a pill and have it be over, the exact opposite is true. So we know a couple of things now. We have years of experience with this drug. Number one, the drug itself has a 4 times greater rate of complications for the woman than a surgical abortion. So I don't want her to get either one, obviously, but the drugs are actually more harmful, and will 1 in 25 will end up in the emergency room. Women get sicker faster. If all of the baby doesn't come out, she can get an infection and go septic very quickly, which is why it's a danger for women in rural areas that aren't close to a hospital. Anyway, so
Sue,
Yes.
What I'm wondering is I'm just thinking about, like, the timeline on this too. The average
Okay.
woman finds out she's pregnant, like, when she's already a month along. When are they supposed to when is this pill being promoted as the best time to use it versus the reality of when women are actually taking this chemical abortion?
Absolutely. The FDA recommends and studies show up to 10 weeks of the baby's age. After 10 weeks, the baby is getting larger, right? And the drug stopping the progesterone doesn't kill it at that point. And so, or maybe kind of halfway or something. The complications for the mother go sky high with each successive week after 10 weeks, which also lands her in the emergency room. The FDA still has a black box warning on the label for this drug. But unfortunately, under President Biden and under the guise of COVID, they allowed it to be mailed where she did not have to go see a doctor to rule out pre existing conditions or any other contraindications like you and I would have to with any other drug. But they'll just mail it to her without any oversight. And unfortunately, that's landing more and more women in the emergency rooms, not to mention what happens in her bathroom.
Well, let's talk about that. Rosalie Markovic, I hope I said that correctly. Markovic.
Markovitch. Uh huh.
It is
Yeah.
Markovich, okay. Rosalie Markovich, she was a Louisiana woman who got pregnant. She was super excited, but her boyfriend's not so excited and says,
Right.
"You gotta have an abortion." What
Mhm.
happens?
So he went online and bought the pills and physically forced her to take them. Forced her. He has a criminal record, from what I understand. He was in a kind of an abusive guy, and made her take those pills. Unfortunately, she lost her baby, and she herself wound up in the hospital with some medical issues herself. The Attorney General of Louisiana caught the case and is suing the FDA on behalf of Rosalie and the state of Louisiana. Um, and actually, that's not the only case we see of that across the country. We're seeing more and more cases of men or maybe sex traffickers or disgruntled boyfriends forcing the guy in Ohio crammed him down her throat while she was sleeping. So we're there. Some states are actually calling it coercion. They're creating a new crime called coercion abortion. We're seeing enough cases now that this is happening, and those guys are getting charged with a crime, but women are being victimized, excuse me, by this lax policy that the Trump administration could could put back into effect the decades long, requirement you have to see a doctor first. That they could do that this afternoon, and they haven't done it yet. And so we're getting the message out that A, these drugs are dangerous, and B, they cause a nightmare scenario, if you can imagine, in your own bathroom. And we're hearing from women all over that they ended up seeing their babies, which is traumatic. And finally, they're being victimized, and a new crime is popping up.
What I want to ask you about, because when in the states where abortion is outlawed, which I completely support, by the way, I am the product of an abortion that did not work out, and
Oh,
so I choose life. I want to be alive. Thank God I'm
good
here.
for you.
Um, yeah, very glad about that. And our mother took us to all the pro-life rallies. She showed us pictures of medical abortions, the disfigurement of babies from the time we were, like, 3rd grade on. I mean, she was like,
Wow.
"This is what abortion is." There
Yeah.
women really figure out what they don't want, after they've been lied to and told that this
Yes.
just a clump of cells, it doesn't really matter, you're
Right.
fine. And when they see the proof for themselves, you
Right.
create this whole new generation of pro-life warriors. But in the states where they have said that, abortion is illegal, how could a woman how could we how could a woman be able to go to see a doctor? Are you just saying they would need to travel to the state that is still allowing abortions in order to get the chemical abortion pill? That's what we're saying essentially, right? We're not saying that we're going to offer some sort of new form of legislation that allows for women who want to have an abortion under 10 weeks with the abortion pill to go to a doctor, because I want to be really
No.
honest about this conversation too and not pretend like all they needed to do was go see a doctor and they'd be fine.
Oh, I
How are
didn't
we
mean to
working through
imply.
that?
Right. No, each state has its own laws. So some states have outlawed it altogether. Some states have a heartbeat bill. You can do an abortion up until you hear the heartbeat. Some states have first trimester. It just depends on what state she lives in now. It's kind of a patchwork of, of laws. So if she's in a state that has zero abortion, or maybe life of the mother or something like that exception, but if she can't get an abortion legally in her state, she still can travel to another state.
Hmm.
Or if there's a heartbeat, for example, law like Florida, or a couple of other states have a heartbeat law, Iowa, then she can have an abortion legally up until you can hear the heartbeat. And that's when those pills would be used. But you know what? I'm not even talking about uh, telemedicine or a legal, getting those drugs. Because if she did, she'd get them from a doctor or have some oversight into that process. I'm talking about these rogue websites, or even Planned Parenthood or Aid Access, who sell these pills on their website, knowing full well that they're mailing into a state where it's not legal. Or
Hmm.
there are websites that are kind of rogue, that are from maybe India or China or something. You don't even really know what's in them, and women
Hmm.
are going online in their desperation and getting them mailed in. So we don't even, that buyer beware kind of thing here now, right?
Yeah.
And also, as I mentioned, abusers are getting the drugs, and women are being victimized.
It's really crazy. You said in here is 63%
Yeah,
of abortions that are happening now today in America are through
yeah,
this abortion kill pill. You said the numbers are up
yeah.
actually of what the number of women having abortions in our country. Um, what is happening state to state? Who is being aggressive? You talk about the Louisiana Attorney General. She's suing the FDA about these pills.
Uh
Who
huh.
is being aggressive about stopping the state to state? This is like RICO. This is an easy RICO case if you're looking at who's distributing the pills, who's putting the ads in. I've seen where they've put the ads in the newspapers. Call this number. We have that in Colorado. They literally
Right.
put ads in our newspapers, and girls call these numbers, and this stuff comes flooding in. Now it's legal in Colorado, but it's not legal in Texas or Louisiana. So what are they doing? In addition to suing the FDA, how are they figuring out who's distributing these across state lines?
So I've got uh, so Louisiana has sued the FDA. The state of Texas is also suing. There are three other states that have had a suit for quite some time. Kansas, Idaho, and Missouri have also sued the FDA. I mean, states are saying, hey, look, we have the right to set our own policy, but your reckless FDA rule that was Biden's, really, that you can mail them in. You're just undermining the sovereignty of our state laws when you just
Mhm.
allow these to come in willy nilly. So, and in this case, the Rosalie Markovich case in Louisiana, they did figure out that it was a doctor in California that mailed those in. They went after that doctor in California because um, he or she broke the law in Louisiana, but Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, said he was going to protect that doctor, shield that doctor from prosecution, from accountability. So now we're seeing states shielding. New York has a shield law. Illinois, other states have shield laws now, and that doesn't work. Like if somebody from my state murdered somebody in your state, we would extradite that killer for to be charged with murder in your state. And that's been happening for lots of things, but no,
Yeah.
not with abortion. These liberal governors are shielding these criminal actions, and women are paying the price for that.
Can you tell us the rundown on the stats and the use of this drug? So, for those who are just joining us, we are talking about the chemical abortion pill. It's been promoted as a quick fix to an unwanted pregnancy. You can order it online. You can seek out newspaper ads. I've seen on your phone. Yeah. Anywhere you can sort them out. So, what are the stats on the effectiveness? The stats surrounding this pill, just for women who might be thinking, or men who might be thinking, this is a really great tool to end an unwanted pregnancy.
Well, the FDA's own label says 1 in 25 women will end up in the emergency room. We know that emergency room visits skyrocketed 500% from 2008 to 2015. We know that it's the abortion industry's tool of choice because they don't have to have a building. You don't have to have the air conditioning on and hire a doctor and the lights and the instruments. You just mark up the pill and mail it. And women are paying the price, of course, not to mention all the babies that are dying here. And also women are being sold a bill of goods because they're told it's just safe, it's easy, and it's nothing but. It is extremely painful, extremely bloody. And of course, we've talked already about what she sees when
The
she
baby,
passes that child. Thanks for
the
having
baby.
me today. I really appreciate the conversation.
I love having you on. And I would just remind everybody also who is really considering, Sue, and just last question. You've been in this a long time, 30 years. Have you ever met a mother who regretted having their baby?
No, I've never met a mother who regretted becoming a mother. It's not always easy. There are a lot of struggles, but I've never heard a single woman say, "Oh, I wish I hadn't had that child." I've also heard many, many women like myself regret having an abortion. And maybe that's a conversation for another day. But um,
Absolutely. Love to have you back. Sue Liebel,
thank
thank
you
you so
so
much
much.
for being with
Uh-huh.
us, Sue Liebel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing, isn't it, guys? When you hear the truth, the lies that are dished out and doled out to the American people, the lies that are told to women. Just to kind of recap what she said, men are getting this abortion pill and physically shoving it down the throats of their girlfriends or the baby mama in order to end the pregnancy. I mean, states are literally making their own laws now because of this for coercive abortion. This is insanity. This is the abortion pill that's being promoted like it's just candy. 6.3% of women who took this pill, you guys, they required follow-up surgery in where the abortion was incomplete, meaning that the tissue remained behind the uterus and the patient had to undergo a surgical abortion on top of what they had already just experienced with the pill. This is anything but safe and effective. Doesn't it sound like the COVID shot? It's safe and effective. Just use this and you'll be fine. You'll get through it like nothing. But to Sue Liebel's point there at the end, never ever have I met a woman who regretted giving birth to their child. And I want to encourage those who are thinking today that the only way to keep their man is to kill their baby. Please reconsider that narrative. Reconsider that narrative. Moving right along today, Tina Peters update. Let's get into it. The Tina Peters update for you guys today is very explosive. A lot of you guys were asking me about it. What's going on? What's going on? I am not a part of Tina Peters' inner team at all. I have not been for the last year and a half, basically since I testified at her trial against Jerry Wood, by the way, because he's a liar. Gerald Wood is a liar. He perjured himself. His attorney was the best friend. Andrew Peters is the best friend of Dan Rubenstein, the Mesa County District Attorney. How do I know? Because I used to work in his father's restaurant. I worked at Bennett's Barbecue. Those guys were thick as thieves back then. One of them helped with the other's college education. I knew them way back then when I was 18 years old. Okay. So when I learned that Jerry Wood had been, that Andrew Peters had been hired as Jerry Wood's attorney. Okay. He had been hired as Jerry Wood's attorney. You have to know, I made a beeline down there to Jerry Wood's home and I said, "What are you doing? Do you know who this is?" And he's like, "Well, he's great. He's just advocating for us. He's just worried about us." I said, "This is Dan Rubenstein's best friend. Anything you've told him, he's gone straight to Dan Rubenstein and told him. And they're going to figure out how they get you to turn on Tina Peters." And he was like, "No, no, no, that will never happen." I was like, "You have got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me." So please clip that little snippet right there and just understand that Jerry Wood lied. He lied. 1000% he lied. Nobody stole his ID. He happily said, "Yeah, Conan can use my card," because it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal. Lots of people used other people's cards to swipe in. It was no big deal. And that was made very clear. And Jerry said, "Yeah, no problem." Nobody stole his identity. Nobody took his card, and used it against his permission. Nobody. He's a liar. He is a liar. He perjured himself. He avoided being served so that the defense could actually interrogate him on the stand, he's a liar. And he should be sued, by the way. He should be sued into the ground when this is all over. He went on CNN, he libeled and defamed both myself and Tina Peters. He is almost the worst. He's almost the worst. There's one who's worse than him, but he's almost the worst. And the fact that he's made himself some kind of religious hero, him and his wife, is pretty laughable. And I never talk about this stuff, but I think today's a great day to talk about it because it's just a lie what happened there with Jerry Wood. He was very excited to be a part of things. He wanted to help. Anything I can do to save my country. That's what he told me. Anything I could do to save my country. When I was testifying, I have to share this little nugget with you guys. When I was testifying at the Tina Peters trial on behalf of Tina Peters, but against Jerry Wood, like that's what I was there for. I was there to call that coward out, completely call him out and tell the truth of what actually happened because it wasn't a big deal. But when you have Andrew Peters, who is the best friend of Dan Rubenstein, creating a certain scene for you, making you think that you're going to prison when he didn't do anything. That was the whole point. Jerry Wood did nothing. He did nothing except say, "Yeah, you can use my card, that's fine." He figured out he didn't have the skill set to do the forensic image, and so then he was like, "Yeah, that guy can use my card, that's fine since he knows how to do it." It was no big deal. But Jerry couldn't admit that. He couldn't tell anybody that because Andrew Peters convinced him it was a criminal act, and it was not. Because at the end of the day, the decision is always up to Clerk Peters how she decided to proceed, and she knew that. That was on her, she knew that, she did what she felt was the best thing to do. That's what we've heard from her over and over. That's what I heard from her directly over and over. She was fine with that. But what we saw this week from Jared Polis is really interesting. It is the point we've all been making that at the very worst, Tina Peters committed a misdemeanor. At the very worst, that's if you want to prosecute her, if you have a real unction to get this lady. That was the worst possible situation. But Dan Rubenstein in May of 22, as revealed by Corad emails that we've already put out to the public, we've already shared them. Unfortunately, the emails were not found until after the trial was over, by the way. In Corad emails, we found that in May of 22, so we're almost a year into this thing. Dan Rubenstein, the district attorney, still did not know what he would even charge Tina Peters with. He had no idea. In the email, he asks the other district attorneys in the state of Colorado. They collaborated with him, by the way, little criminals themselves. He was asking them, let's form another group that's out from under the scope of this association that, make sure that we're not violating our oaths. Let's form another group so that we can just talk openly about how I can prosecute Tina Peters. That is a fact. He had no idea what he was going to charge her with because she hadn't committed a crime. I don't exactly know how Robert Shapiro ended up prosecuting the case. He was the worst. He is really a disgusting, diabolical person. I have a feeling we should look at his laptop, is what I think. Wouldn't let me talk, wouldn't let anybody talk, wouldn't let anybody say anything that would have even made Tina look, less crazy. They were there to make her look crazy, look insane, look unhinged, look like a conspiracy theorist. And it was amazing because her legal team, I don't know. It's just watching people get railroaded by Robert Shapiro and never hearing her legal team say, step in was also a problem. You couldn't testify, you couldn't give your testimony. And I don't know about you, but I've never been in that situation where I had to testify in court. Never had to do that before. Certainly never had to do it under the threat of being charged right after my testimony. So it was, it was a bit tense. But here we have today. So I'm not a part of that legal team, just so everybody knows that. I'm not a part of that. I haven't been since I testified. Um, in fact, I would say this. When people in her team had reached out to our team, my team, and said, "Would you please help us raise money?" We did it. We tried. We tried to help, and were immediately told we would be served a cease and desist by her legal team for trying to help her after they asked us to help her. So who knows? Who knows what's going on over there? I have no idea. So it's amazing to me. All I'm saying is there's been so much dysfunction going on within that group that it's amazing to me that Jared Polis is extending this weird olive branch, saying, "Hey, I'm going to extend the time that you can request clemency because it's very clear that we have a dual justice system going on here." And what do I mean by that? Maybe you missed this, maybe you didn't. Take a look at this. Sorry. This is the most recent story of what has been going on in Colorado. Excuse me. You have the story of Sonia Lewis, who was a state representative, one of the absolute worst humans on the planet, by the way, one of the most active people in sexualizing and grooming children, passing forcing parents to do injections on their children, medical treatments that parents did not want. She's been at the helm of the Take Kids Away from Parents Who Won't Affirm movement. All of this. This Sonia Lewis chick is horrible. Okay. But apparently, in ethics violations that were submitted by staffers there in Denver at the Colorado House, you had staffers saying that Sonia was treating them terribly, but she was just an awful person. Shocking. She was treating them terribly. Sonia couldn't even get anybody to vouch for her, so she had to fabricate letters of support. She faked them. She made up letters of support for herself and faked them. Now, she was charged. This is crazy, but she was charged with attempt to influence a public servant. Same exact statutes as Tina Peters, if you guys can see it there. Tina Peters was a Mesa County clerk in a mid-sized county, Mesa County, largest on the western slope, but still small, 130,000 people. And she was charged with attempt to influence a public servant. Please note, Tina Peters was not charged with interference in an election. Kyle Clark, MSN, CNN, Channel 9, KJCT. Stop saying that. Tina Peters was never, ever charged, not ever, not from the beginning, ever, with interfering in an election. There was no election happening. This was in May. There was no election happening. This was after elections were over. She never even fiddled with an election machine. That's not how you do a forensic image. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to break any laws. And she did not break any laws to have that image made, that forensic image made. She did not have to open up the boxes. She never opened the boxes. The seals were never broken. She committed no election crime. Okay? None. And yet, if you go Google her right now, you're going to pull up every headline and it says election, Tina Clerk Peters interfered in elections, on and on. I think that her team needs to sue every single one of these publications that put this out as their headline. It is false. It is it is demonstrably false. It's completely fake. It's completely misleading. It puts a total narrative out there that Clerk Tina Peters interfered in an election and manipulated electronic voting machine equipment. That has been what they have been using. Now, you may not know this, but Dan Rubenstein, the district attorney that brought these charges against Tina and allowed himself to be the tool of the Biden regime against her in Dominion voting machines. Yeah, his brother is Legacy Colorado Media. Yeah, didn't find that one out either till a few months back, maybe 6 months ago. Figured out who his brother was and went, "You have to be kidding me." This guy was making BLM documentaries. He's super, apologetic on behalf of DEI, on behalf of wokeism, and everybody's a victim, and America is horrible. That's Dan Rubenstein's brother. He has direct access to all legacy Colorado media, period, in addition to CNN, in addition to all of these networks. And that explains a lot because that allowed for Dan Rubenstein's media campaign probably to be run by his brother, I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess that his brother, I'm saying allegedly, I'm going to guess his brother was helping him get Jerry Wood and his wife on CNN. Wow. It's really hard to get on CNN. It's hard to get on any mainstream media publication, Fox News, any of them. But wow, it's amazing. It's like the doors were thrust open for Jerry Wood and his wife to go spread the lie that Tina Peters had stolen his identity and had interfered in an election and electronic voting machines. It's amazing. That's another little caveat you may or may not know about. That's that's Dan Rubenstein's brother. You can go find him on Facebook. Proud leftist. Dan Rubenstein's a conservative though in Mesa County. Just doing the right thing. He's just a good guy. Like, he's got to be so mean to him. Like, I make his life so hard. He's one of the worst humans on the planet. And I knew that before the Tina Peters situation, by the way. That guy would sell anybody for 6 shekels. Doesn't even need a shirt. Just 6 shekels will do it. He'll sell anybody down the river in order to keep his position. Anybody. And I know for sure. He is so vindictive and such a horrible human being. He would ruin innocent fathers' lives. He would take down his own employees from his own judicial district just to CYA. He's horrible. All right. I hope I made that clear how horrible he is. Anyway, back to this. We've got Sonia Lewis here who did the same things that Tina Peters did. And she has 0 incarceration time, 0 parole. She got probation. She got probation. She was found guilty of 4 felony counts, 3 forgery accounts because she couldn't get anybody to vouch for her that she was a decent person, and 1 attempt to influence an official. Tina Peters, multiple felony counts, 3 charges supposedly of influencing an elected official. She gets a guilty verdict. She gets a life sentence essentially because 9 years at 70 years old is a life sentence. You don't, I'm not going to argue about it. 70 years old in the conditions that she's been in. I don't care. Like, I'm not a fan. I think if everybody knows because of the unbelievable destruction her and other people have tried to do, it's because I could not do everything that people wanted me to do. And then the way that they not only allowed, but tried to ruin me for no reason. I just don't get it. People who are stressed do really weird things. So I'm no fan. But I know right is right and wrong is wrong. And I know that Tina Peters did not commit a crime. And I know that Tina Peters did not deserve 9 years in prison. And I know that Tina Peters did not commit election fraud. I know Tina Peters did not manipulate electronic voting machines. I know Tina Peters did not influence any election officials. All of it is a lie. All of it is a lie. At the very most, what she did was Jerry Wood said, "Hey, Conan Hayes can use my swipe card. Sounds good." And Tina Peters allowed for the Dominion people in there to believe that was Jerry Wood. Okay. That's a misdemeanor, though. Just as the Colorado courts, you guys remember this from a couple weeks ago, when the appeals court is looking at Tina Peters' case, they're trying to understand why she was given felony charges for what was clearly a misdemeanor. And that's what we've been saying this whole entire time. And I'm going to tell you, it was so important to shut her down, to make her look crazy, make her look insane. Why? Because of Mesa County Report 1, 2, and 3. And oh, by the way, now there is a supplemental 4. Thank you to Jeff, the Lone Raccoon. You guys, Tina Peters did her job. She had well over 300 people. These same people that were out canvassing for months, they canvassed almost every single day. A group of over 300 people almost every single day taking turns. Not everybody was there every single day. That's not what I'm saying. But this group over a 5-month, almost 6-month period canvassed every single day. I was there. I know. Corey, you were there. And they supported Tina Peters. They wanted her to get to the bottom of what had happened with that crazy city council race of April 2021. It had nothing to do with President Trump, although obviously reports number 2 and 3 demonstrated that the 2020 election in Mesa County was fraudulent. It was fraudulent. So here we are. Sonia Lewis, a leftist darling, great friends with Jared Polis, according to him. She gets probation. But Tina Peters, she gets 9 freaking years in prison and an unbelievable narrative assigned to her name that is demonstrably false, and yet no one is held accountable. President Trump showed us that we can sue these people into the ground. He showed us that we should not be tolerating their lying to the public because it matters, you guys. It matters what the public narrative has been surrounding Tina Peters. And Dan Rubenstein knew that. And I believe I'll say allegedly, I guess, because I'm getting sued here, whatever. Uh, I, I'm going to say allegedly, but I believe his brother helped him with this whole mainstream media narrative to pin Tina Peters to the wall. The BP went out, the public bulletin went out and said, say she interfered in elections, say she manipulated electronic voting machines. It never happened. So I want to share with you exactly what Jared Polis said because it's quite a crazy turn of events. And the pressure of losing all your state funding it's rough. It's rough to lose all that money. It's rough for CDOT not to be able to fix roads. It's rough to have to use the state taxpayer dollars instead of federal dollars to sexualize and groom children. It's hard to use state taxpayer dollars to promote abortion on demand to the rest of the country. It's very expensive to do these leftist things and these satanic things that Jared Polis really wants to do in Colorado when your federal dollars are pulled. It's hard when the NIH money is being pulled from your leftist woke universities. Is really, really hard. It's hard. It's hard when your gain of function research money is being pulled by NIH from your failing universities in Colorado. It's very hard. And it's going to be very, very hard to explain why the medical Anschutz facility is losing all of their money too. It's very hard. It's very hard for Jared Polis right now. It's very hard to have all the Medicaid funding that went to illegals, where they get a lot of their votes pulled. It's very hard. It's very hard for him right now. And so, in that spirit, I want to share with you what he said. Sorry, I want to make sure I read it exactly right because it's really important. Um, 1 second. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to read it straight. Kyle Clark, I hope you're listening. Kyle Clark, I hope you're going to do a story on this incredible turnabout, because even you knew, and I will give you this, Kyle. I'm going to give this to you. Even Kyle Clark, you know, little weasel that he is, admitted when Tina Peters was sentenced, he was live and said, I am shocked that they actually gave her a sentence like this. I thought it'd be a misdemeanor and probation. But you know why Kyle said that? Because that would have been fitting. That would have been fitting for the quote crime that Tina Peters supposedly committed. Okay. So here is what Jared Polis said. Last week, former state senator Sonia Jaquez Lewis was sentenced to probation and community service after being convicted of 4 felonies, including attempt to influence a public official. She made a horrible mistake. That was not a mistake, what she did. It takes a lot of thought to forge documents, sir. Whatever. And she was wrong. Okay. I hope she learns from this and can rebuild her life. As someone who has known Sonia as a friend for many years, on a personal level, I was glad to hear she isn't going to prison, which is a hard place for anyone, no less a retired 68-year-old pharmacist. But it is not lost on me that she was convicted of the same exact crime, exact same felony charge as Tina Peters, attempting to influence a public official. And yet, Tina Peters, as a non-violent first-time offender, got a 9-year sentence. I believe this is the first time I've heard common sense come out of Jared Polis's social media. Justice in Colorado and America needs to be applied evenly. You never know when you might need to depend on the frickin' rule of law. This is the context I am using as I consider cases like this that have sentencing disparities, which is why I have extended the deadline for clemency applications until April 3rd. I will be making decisions on these cases throughout the remainder of my governorship. Now, this is, again, very interesting. Sonia, a couple clarifications. Colonel Sean Smith comments on here, and I completely agree with him. So Colonel Sean Smith says, "Hey, Sonia Lewis, the worst senator on the planet, she didn't make a mistake. It was deliberate, and it was for personal gain." Do you guys all remember how they tried to make Tina Peters the situation be that she it was for personal gain? I can tell you right now, Tina Peters gained nothing. She gained nothing. She lost just about everything from her husband, her family, her monetarily, property. She lost just about everything. If we get a chance to add up all of her losses, there was nothing she gained by exposing the voting machines of Mesa County. Nothing. And I guess the only thing we did gain was seeing what elected officials, are actual real cowards, far worse than we ever imagined. You really did get to see who had the strength of conviction to stand with you. Definitely, she got to see that, but she gained nothing. Whereas Sonia Lewis did everything she just did, forging the three documents to support herself that she wasn't a bad person who had been mean to staffers, was all about Sonia. It's all about Senator Lewis. Okay. Anyway, he goes on to say Tina Peters was doing her duty as an elected official, obstructed by the SOS and her own county. And that is 1000% correct. She was obstructed by her own county, by County Attorney Todd Starr, by District Attorney Dan Rubenstein, by District Attorney Investigator Michael Straw, and James Cannon, all losers who should be investigated. All of them. They tried to erase critical evidence in Tina Peters' case, by the way, James Cannon. Yeah, tried to erase my text group there. There's always a backup, bro. Always backup. Judge Barrett deprived her of due process and defense and gave inappropriate jury instructions. And we know this now. We knew it then. But again, we couldn't get through Dan Rubenstein's brother's MSM connections and really tell the public the truth of what was going on. And then we couldn't even get our own Congresswoman, Lauren Boebert, to follow through on the promise she made to Tina Peters that she would, quote, have her back. And I just got to tell you, I just love this clickbait stuff Lauren Boebert's doing right now, where she's like, "Oh, Tina Peters, she shouldn't be having a 9-year sentence when Sonia Lewis got probation." You're a little late to the party there, darling. Little late. About 5 years late. You're really the worst, actually. I don't know how you'll I really just hope somebody runs against her in the 4th district of Colorado. It wouldn't be hard. Call me. Call me, I'll help you with your race, because she's the worst. Right now, watching her get likes and clicks pretending she supports Tina Peters is almost the worst gag reflex factor for me. Almost the worst, because I was there for all of this. I know exactly what happened and how it happened. And watching people like Lauren Boebert fold and submit to Dan Rubenstein is definitely the most disgusting thing I got to see. Mm, I think it is. Yeah. I think that was the most disgusting thing. A woman who runs around with a gun on her hip, acting like she's so courageous. It didn't take long, guys. She didn't even make it a year. She didn't make it a year. Not even a year. There's some more tea for you. Lots of tea today. I just feel like spilling it all because you know what? I'm free. I'm a free person and I can spill it all. I can tell you all exactly what happened and how it happened. But I think one of the most violating things that has gone on in the last 5 years as it pertains to Tina Peters is, you know, I'll save that for another day. I'll save that for another day. We'll save it for another day. So right now, I think probably the call to action. I know y'all wondering, what should we do? Call and support Jared Polis, and also make sure. I mean, the attorneys for Tina Peters did not file a clemency request last time. Okay, they didn't do it. And so when Jared Polis said, "Hey, I haven't seen anything come across my desk," he wasn't lying. Nobody submitted a clemency request after she was sentenced. I think part of that probably was they figured she wouldn't be in there long. They figured, Trump's going to be in office. This isn't going to, everything's going to work out just fine. Trust the plan. And so they didn't do the basic things that needed to be done in order to ensure as much as possible her release. Now, I'm Monday morning quartering backing it, and I get that because it's very possible at that time Polis would have just said no. Okay. He would have had everybody on his side in Colorado pretty much on the left anyway. And he had Biden in office still. So I'm not sure that it would have mattered. And that's probably true. But right now, I've been told that everything is handled because I did reach out to their team and say, "Did this get done?" Because we don't have any pride left about this. We've already figured out that the federal route is not going to work because you would have to have US Marshals willing to go into the prison and take Tina Peters out. You would have to have President Trump being willing to die on this sword. And the guy's got so many things in the fire right now. I just don't know, how people are advising him or what that looks like. I don't know. The federal protection plan, witness protection plan totally seems correct and logistic and logical, and yet it hasn't played out. So you have to kind of look at everything and say it's not going to play out. This is where we're at. The states have the and here's the reality. And this is the reality. This is your history check for the moment. States are supposed to have more power than the federal government. That is a fact. So for the federal government to be coming in and doing anything more than taking back federal funding, to come in and supersede a jury conviction, please, like that's a precedent that I don't there was a pathway, like I said, federal prosecution, federal witness, that could have happened. It hasn't happened though. So it tells me someone sees that there's an error in that and that it won't play out. So I'm believing the best about that because I know the conversations. I know what's been going on at the DOJ. I know what they tried to figure out. Not gonna work out. The states historically have the greatest power, and that is by design. That is so we don't become a centralized tyrannical government like we've experienced under Joe Biden. Everything always goes back to money though. You know that if you pay a state a certain amount of money to do a thing, they will do it. So the control factor has been the money, and the control factor now is the money. So the smartest thing that the Trump administration can do is continue to take every single dollar from the state of Colorado, and by the way, every other state in the union that continues to put boys in girls' bathrooms and girls' sports, that continues to abort babies up to due date, that continues to stand against securing our election platforms. That's fine. Do it, but do it on your own dollar. Do it on your own dime. The taxpayers of the whole country are no longer going to fund it for you. I think that's fair. I have no problem with that. And then the states can do whatever they want. They can allocate resources however the voters and the legislature feels they want to do it. I don't care. That's fine. That's the Constitution. That's the Constitution. And I'm good with that. I'm not good with the strong arming because we already experienced it. We experienced the Biden administration coming in and forcibly screwing with US citizens and subverting state protections in order to ruin people's lives. I'm not good with that. I'm not good when I hear a sheriff say, I had no authority. The FBI has more authority than me. No, they don't. No, they don't. Not in your backyard, they don't. But we had a lot of people that were afraid because they were watching what the Biden administration was doing. And it's hard because the pendulum swung so hard to the left, and the federal government has to reset the pendulum. And so we're going to see things that I think feel overreaching, that I think feel out of alignment with the role the Constitution says the federal government has in our lives. And yet we have to reset the balance. We have to reset the order. I don't know how to do that. And I trust a little bit those who are trying to do that right now. Some very, very good men and women who are trying to get things back to neutral again and give the power back to the states without the bribery factor of your tax dollars. That's the problem. Think about ESSER funds. Think about what states were willing to do to children for ESSER funds. I mean, it's unreal. mask them up, lock them down, make them use sanitizer every half an hour, prevent them from talking and socializing with their friends at school, tell them they were going to kill their grandparents at home if they didn't spatiate themselves 6 feet, tell them they were going to kill other people if they didn't get the shot. Remember, all this was going on at our schools because the schools were taking ESSER funds from the federal government. That tells you what people are willing to do anything for a buck, anything for a dollar. So when you have the rare people like Tina Peters, like Mike Lindell, like President Trump, when you have the rare people like that who stand on principle, they know it's the right thing to do. And I know how much uncertainty there was when it became when the whispers started about the FBI raiding people's homes and January 6th was going on and you were seeing violation of constitutional protections and you're like, how can they just go in and take somebody under the cover of darkness and not tell their family for a month where they are? People started getting nervous. Remember that was happening like in May, June. That was happening actually from February on of 2022. So we all start kind of going, are they going to decide one day that we are criminals? Unindicted co-conspirators, you freaking oh god, you guys really are something else, Mesa County District Attorney. You're really something. Really something. I'm really, really excited for investigations to start into you. Really excited. All the disgusting, underhanded things you've done because you are a very, very bad man. All right, let's move on. We're almost wrapping up our day. Gosh, we only have about 5 more minutes left today. Okay, so enough of that. It's very rare. Good people are hard to find. Courage is even in shorter supply. And so when you see it, pray for them and let's see God do amazing things as it pertains to Tina Peters getting out of prison because that is the right thing. No matter what else has happened, it is right for her to be free, period. All right. Last thing I want to share with you guys, it's the Poison Mom moment. Mama Health Beat. Mama Health Beat. I want to share this with you guys. Guys. Please, I don't know how to say it. I've said this. I want to help. I really want to help. I have just a kind of caveat, not because I'm trying to be, well, you know what? No, I do my research. That's why. Um, okay. I do my research. And because I do my research, I want you guys to understand why I am the way that I am. And with our kids, Neil is extremely passionate about this. I'm passionate. He's in all kinds of crazy stuff to get his health back. He's had to. He nearly died. You guys have heard his story. If you haven't, it's crazy. I need to have him back on to tell it again. He nearly died in 2020. We were not going to, or 2021. We were not going to take him. No, it was 2020. We were not going to take him to the hospital because they were doing all those crazy COVID policies, and people were going into the hospital and not coming back out. And he was in bad shape. He was dying, and we were not taking him there. And I said, I'd rather you be here at home and let's just keep working this out. Called my good friend Dr. Barkey to figure out what to do, didn't know what to do, gave us some ideas. It began to work, and Neil began to get better. It never would have happened in a hospital. He would have died. They would have put him on resveratrol, and I never would have seen him again because they weren't even allowing loved ones to stay. So in that time, obviously, we've decided things our kids can and cannot have. And I want to just share this with you guys because it's crazy. Okay. It's crazy. 6 food dyes that are in your everyday items right now. I just want to share with you guys. Red dye number 40 is a prominent dye. It even is called a dye. Okay. It's in your Gatorades, it's in your Powerades, it's in all that stuff. Your kids are eating these Skittles and they're eating Starburst and all of this. Every single one of those. All you have to do is flip the package over and read the back. And it says yellow dye, red dye, blue dye, green dye. All of that is poison. It's literally poison. It does all kinds of things to the neurological system of your children. Most importantly, it damages the brain. Okay. Most synthetic foods contain dyes, period. And then it's weird because sometimes, like Skinny Girl, I do the Skinny Girl cocktail mixes. We put them in seltzer water. They're really good for no sugar and a little bit of flavor. Some of them will have no food coloring and be like super healthy and, colored with turmeric or something like that. And then others will have red dye, blue dye, yellow dye. And you're like, why do they do this? I don't know. Probably because they have a European line and they have an American line. And Americans, we are the lab rats. Our kids are the lab rats. That's what they've been doing. They have given us so much crap that they already knew was bad, and they allowed it because it makes a ton of money. That's your example of crony capitalism today, is the food system. The fake food system, the candy system, the packaged food system, it's all bad. So, what do you need to know? Allura Red AC, which is commonly known as red dye 40, is a huge source of concern. It is derived from petroleum that means that humans make it. It's a chemical compound that starts with crude oil. It is the type of oil um, unrefined crude oil is a type of raw, unrefined oil that is found underground in nature. But if you're thinking, what isn't that gasoline? The answer is not really. While its crude oils is the basis for other products, those are made using a very different chemical process than the synthetic red dye number 40. The US Food and Drug Administration has historically deemed these safe for human consumption, but in recent years, obviously, that is beginning to change. Why? Well, because the news came on the heels of a January 2025 announcement that the FDA has banned the use of red dye number 3 to start with, calling for its removal from food and drugs because it is making kids sick. It is hard to pinpoint exactly which dye is associated with certain symptoms, but I'm going to give you the rundown on what these dyes. It is not hard, actually. The science has already been done. Tons of research has been done on this, by the way. Just Big Pharma didn't want to acknowledge it. The CDC would not acknowledge it, and the FDA would not acknowledge it. But here's the reality. Hyperactivity and ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Red dye 40 is thought to be associated with hyperactivity and behavioral changes like irritability and depression. We used to do these tests on our kids. We would give them sugar. This was like they were 3 and 2. I know, terrible, but these are our older kids. We would give them sugar, and I would literally watch them just totally melt down. They would just totally turn into crazy people, crazy children. And I began to make the connection. Oh, when they have sugar, they act this way. This is crazy. So then we would limit their sugar and we would be like, nope, they can't have anything. Or if they were going to have something, then we would go to the park immediately so they could like run it all off. I wasn't making an association yet on what the dyes were doing on their nervous system, but I was associating the sugar. The sugar is making them act crazy, but it was more than that. That does not mean they're trying to say it doesn't cause ADHD. It just, yeah, ADHD is not normal. Okay. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is not normal. It's poison in the child's system that causes their brain to malfunction. Their neurological system is malfunctioning. The great thing about that is it can be set straight once they are rid of the toxins in the body and they move to natural nature food sources. Okay. Allergic reactions. Let's talk about this. Headaches, hives, asthma, skin irritation, sneezing, watery eyes. And here we go because they always say the save the worst for last. Possible links to cancer. Hmm. Red dye 40 has some links of its own. For instance, it contains p-cresidine. That's cresidine for those who want to research, which is thought to be a carcinogen. It's not thought to be a carcinogen, you guys. It is a carcinogen, which is a cancer causing substance. And basically, what it does is it changes the formation of the cell. We call it retarding the cell, it damages the cell. Cells create mirror images of themselves. And the longer that goes on, the more it interacts with other cells. And eventually, you have too many damaged cells that the body no longer operates correctly. And it puts a stress and strain on the system. And before you know it, you have full blown cancer. Now, if you guys know me and you know this show and what we talk about, we know God has made a cure for everything. He has given us what we need to be healthy and whole. The body is made to heal. So we have no problem with that. No matter what you're experiencing, God has given us something already that will help your body to reset, even when you've poisoned it to the point where your doctor is saying there's cancer, which cancer, again, is just damaged cells. That's what it is. And sometimes well, it's damaged cells. That's just very basic what it is. Red dye 40 also contains benzene, another known carcinogen. Oh, you guys. A small amount of benzene, they say, does not pose a risk, but the studies that were done around the consumption of your normal breakfast cereals, Skittles, Starburst, all of that just recently showed that children were consuming a ton of poison in one sitting. So, food and drugs that contain red dye 40. Let me just tell you, candy, gum, cakes, frosting, cereals, chips, salty snack foods, energy drinks, gelatins, ice cream, pastries, popsicles, protein powders. Hey, my health squads, make sure you're reading those labels. Pudding, soda, sports drinks, yogurt. It's important to note that on food labels, ingredients are listed by weight. So a food that actually lists red dye last has less of it than a food that lists it second or third. So keep that in mind too. But it's all bad. Just avoid it. Just stop eating it. Okay. Other companies that are not trying to poison you, they have substitutes and alternatives that they use instead of red dye 40. For example, beet juice, beet powder, blueberry juice, pomegranate juice, beta carotene, cranberries, cherries, strawberries, dried hibiscus flowers. You guys, you don't have to use dye in order to make your cupcakes pink. Okay? You don't. You can use food and it will make your food pink. It's really, really incredible. I think it's a really important. So, this is today is just red dye 40. Look on your packaging. Make sure you're reading the labels. Make sure you're paying attention and not just letting your children consume whatever is put before them. It's our job, parents, because right now we're teaching them. They're going to learn how to live in this world, how to take their health seriously based on your behavior. They catch way more than you tell them. They're catching your behaviors. They're catching what you're doing. And that's why it's so important to make sure that your spiritual life is a demonstration your kids will catch, that your physical life is a demonstration your children will catch. It's so important that you treat your husband or your wife well because that's what they're going to catch. You don't just tell them how to be married, you act it out, you live it out. And I want to do a whole show on that with Neil because not because we're perfect, we are not. We still fight, but we fight because we like each other. Like we want things to be better. I'm never one of those people. If somebody tells me they don't fight, I'm like, you're in big trouble. You're in big trouble. Somebody's laying down. Somebody's not being real. Somebody's given up. They don't even want to fight with you anymore. That's sad. They don't even care enough about what's going on with you two to even fight for it anymore, which is very sad to me. We want to fight for what we want, and that's just a natural thing. Maybe you can learn to fight better, right? We don't want to be crazy, but we fight for what we want. That's just how it is. So I want to do a whole thing on that. But what you are doing, how you are living, is what your children are going to catch, not just what you tell them. And in an area, in a time when in America we have a fat problem, we don't have a skinny problem. We have a undernourished, under maintained fat problem in America. And one of the first things we can start doing to correct that is just read the label. If it says it has dyes in it, start with red dye 40, that's fine. Red dye number 3 was the first one to be banned in the United States, but it's not banned yet. You're going to find it's still on your candy. It's still in your Skittles that you're giving to your kids. It's still in your juices, your fruit juices you're giving them, which you should never give a child fruit juice, by the way. Just throw it out. You should never give a child Gatorade. Gatorade is poison. It's poison, and I just gotta tell you, watching people give their kids Gatorade, I have to just look away. I have to look away. I have to remind myself they love their kids. They're doing what they think is the right thing to do because it's Gatorade, made for National Football League, for athletes to help them be their best. That's what Gatorade was originally made for. So clearly, parents think they're doing the right thing for their kids. I'm just here to tell you it's not. They're lying. Their marketing is amazing. They're promoting these big, strong athletes who a lot of them do not drink Gatorade. Okay. A lot of them know better. They do not drink Gatorade. They only drink it for the commercial and to get the deal. And that's money. That's money marketing right there. Sorry. That's the truth. So that's something you can do right now for your kids. Stop giving them anything that contains red dye 3, which again will be the first dye banned in America, but it's not until like the fall. It doesn't kick in, I don't think, until the fall of this year. And then because they're giving companies time to switch out and make up the difference because it's going to cost them money to do things that are in our best interest as consumers rather than their best interest as cronies. And then red dye 40. That's your tip for today, guys. It's been great to be with you. We are at the end of our time together today. Please remember how important it is to value life and to protect life. And right now, the narrative is that we have abolished abortion. That is not true. It's getting even worse because women are believing the lie they can take a small pill and terminate the life of their child. Please stand up, be the voice of truth today. Protect the littles. Demonstrate what living life really means and how great it really and truly is to have children. Not easy, not always the most fun thing you've ever done in your life, but absolutely the most rewarding thing ever. Thank you guys for being with us today on America's Mom. I look forward to seeing you guys next week on Friday. We are bringing AFPI women's advocate Stacey Shufflin is going to spend some time with us next week talking about all the policies of the president. We're going to sort out some fact from fiction because she has a front row seat to all of this in Washington, D.C. She's going to join us next week on Friday. I would love it if you want to submit some questions ahead of time that you want me to ask her because she does know everything. She is the tea spiller. She's going to spill the tea for us. It's going to be great. That will be next Friday, 10 a.m., right back here on America's Mom. You can find us on X, YouTube, and of course, right here on Facebook. Thank you guys for being with us today. See you all very soon.